So, hello and welcome to this new podcast. And thank you for joining at such a short notice. What I wanted to ask you will can wait for a while. Before that, I would want you to introduce yourself a bit.
My name is Uday. I'm a close friend of Bunty for many years. We've been talking on the phone, and so yeah, it's nice being back with Bunty after a long time.
Okay. Well, that is the first time somebody's introduced themselves as a phone friend. I wish one of us was on the hot seat and we were making lots of money and on KBC. But while
Yes,
that is
yes.
there to be, I would want to give a bit of preamble on what Uday has been up to. Uday and I met at a Vipassana course quite a few years back. He was doing an engineering job somewhere in the US and he came back to India along with his wife and has been here ever since. So while I was thinking of what should I ask you or what should be my first question, this came very naturally. I have never asked you this particular question. Um, in the corporate circle, or rather in the kind of economic segment that we belong to, there is this whole aspect of educating oneself and getting a good job and keep working at it. And after a while, I think it's also a trend to call it the rat race and be fed up with it, but still continue being in it. Uh, you are one of the very few people that I've known that was gone out of the rat race and is able to manage reasonably well. Uh, how do you view this now? Once you're out of the quote unquote rat race.
I think getting into it was sort of accidental in that I was probably never meant to be in this in the first place. But whatever reasons I got into it, once you get into it, you quickly realize what is the price that one needs to pay to get there. And I
Uh,
think it's sort of quite opportune time that the top ranked tennis player just quit her career at the peak of her career at 25. She said that I don't think I have it in me to do what it takes to keep being at that position. I think I realized that I didn't have what it takes to keep going through the grind year after year and, and trying to get things that really didn't mean much to me from my childhood. It's not that I was like this, suddenly something dawned on me, but I was never very materialistic. I wanted a comfortable material life, but I really didn't see a place for myself with the fancy cars and high net worth and all those things. I didn't feel they were worth sacrificing my life for. Yeah. And so coming out of it, I think it was a good choice. I don't know if coming back to India at the time when the economy was taking off was a good choice. In the last 10, 15 years, I've seen everything just go skyrocket and people's values have changed quite a bit. But I think that's what we faced when we came back and saw how things have changed in the last few years. Yeah, overall, it's an interesting journey. I think it's totally worth it. It's difficult, and one can understand why the previous generations who have tried to do something took a very minimalistic approach to life, because that's the only thing that can sustain you through being out of the right place.
how do your friends and close relatives, how did they see this decision of yours? Were there any discussions or repercussions, if I were to call it that? Because it's quite a radical decision.
Mm, I don't think anybody was for it. Nobody was encouraging of it. I think people stopped calling after a few months. I used to get calls from India to US just to inquire how I was. After I came back here and stopped being part of the corporate race, I think I've lost touch with most of my friends and relatives. Uh, a little surprising, but then I just accepted it. That's what it is. I just probably didn't know the the value of the individual being what he or she earns or potentially earns in the future. But at the same time, I met a lot of strangers, a lot of people who made some very strong decisions in their life. They have been very encouraging. One of them was an organic farmer by the name of Narayan Reddy in Bangalore. Meeting him was a very life-changing moment. He since passed away, but like that, I've met many people. Let's say they're just above and beyond whom I have grown up with or whom I know as friends. So they've been a lot of inspirational figures, and a lot of people, a lot of strangers have actually encouraged me and my wife on this journey. It is their encouragement and blessings that have probably taken me forward.
Your voice, I'm losing your voice on and off a little.
Okay, I'll probably speak a little louder.
Yeah. One question that arises, see, this is a decision which takes a lot of, I would say, soul searching, sheerly because of the term, not so much as what it means, but just because it's a big decision. It affects your family life. Also, moving countries cannot be so easy. Once you've gone there, you try to settle. A lot of people would not take the decision that you took. Or if they did, there would be a lot many more reasons than the ones that you have spoken about here. So has there been any time where you look back and felt a little hassled or confused because of certain needs? And it need not be material needs of a big kind. It could be small electricity bill or this or that, or this month there's no money, or any such thing that you need and you've not been able to fulfill, although it's a required thing, not necessarily an indulgence. Has there been any time like that where you kind of felt, what should I do?
Yes, many times actually.
Oh,
Yeah, many times. And I think it's not just the material needs itself, it's just the interactions with parents, the lack of respect many times they have towards what you say, and how society treats you, or even small interactions like how people treat you once you go into a hospital or a bank, not knowing they know what your net worth is or what your employment status is or how you're living. So yeah, many times you do feel not more as a judgment on them, but how your life has changed within a couple of months or a year or 2 years, that where you could just take out a card and swipe and people knew you were an NRI or you had a steady income. Yes, that is a part of the process of this getting out of the rat races. There are these repercussions and one has to learn to manage them. Yes.
was there a time when you looked down upon people because of that? Was there any angst, a lot of anger, suppressed or otherwise, expressed or otherwise? Just the fact that what was your mental state when people whom you thought were related to you in a bond of sorts, whether through blood or through friendship or any other, they were not looking at you in the same manner that they looked at you when you were doing well for yourself?
A little bit initially, but then I started realizing that this is a changed India. It's not the India that I left or the India of my childhood. A lot of my relatives have been doing financially well. So for them, assessing how the other person is doing is through acquisitions and net worth. And so I quickly started realizing that as well, because it's not
Oh,
just changing them. You're seeing even in the city in general, you're seeing a lot of people doing very well. Money not being as valuable as it was once, like 100 or a 500 doesn't take you very far these days. So, and people spending a lot of money. So you do realize that you're not in the stream of the regular folk who are trying to earn and spend and earn and spend. So there is a change in your outlook towards society and how society looks at you. Yes, that is there. Anger, maybe a couple of times, but nothing that is continual on that. For that reason, no, I am not being angry or frustrated or disappointed. But yeah, these constant reaffirmations from society that you're less valuable as a person because you don't have a lot of money or earn a lot of money. Yeah, that is rubbed into you every now and then.
Okay. Um, did it have any impact on your self-confidence also?
No, I don't think that has ever impacted my self-confidence. If self-confidence has been impacted, it's more because of mm, the fact that certain things aren't possible in our society because you don't have a lot of money. Whether it is getting access to influence or government officials or something where money actually makes a big role. And I'm sure the kind of money I'm talking about is not what an ordinary employees make.
Yeah.
Average guy who makes a decent income, he actually doesn't have any influence in society. You can live a ordinary life, but to actually, make moves in certain places, you need really big money. And yeah, that's when I felt, yeah, money really makes a huge difference. But I would have never earned that kind of money, even if I were in the US.
Uh,
So it's like what you learn in school and what you come up with in reality is realize that the top 1% of society or the top 5% of society, what they can get away because they have money. By my own experiences of different sorts, I ended up in those situations where one needed a lot of money to get things. And you guys, okay, this is not possible. And it's probably true for everyone.
how did your wife take this? Um, because you are a smaller family unit, you think uh, did that impact her decision of whatever she felt about it as well? So this is a two-pronged question. And one is what was her reaction? Second is, was her reaction prompted by the fact that both of you are adults and you can manage for yourself or whatever?
Mm, I think initially she was probably a little surprised, but the minute she accepted that it's all coming down to money and people value that more than most other values, I think she started accepting that whenever certain interactions happen, that this is how it is. It is nothing to do with the individual who is behaving a certain way. It's a reflection of the truth of our life situation is this. And we made these choices. It has its positives and it has its drawbacks. And when we face the drawbacks, we balance it knowing out that there are these positives that we live by. So it's a package.
What is positive in penury?
I don't know if I can call it penury, but uh, I don't know. We don't have a need to keep on shopping. We don't have a need to impress people. For one thing is for sure, we have time for ourselves. I don't have neither me or my wife has to take anybody's permission to go on a course or take time off or be there for a sick relative. We can actually do that out of our own free will. So there is a price we've paid for it, and we are fine with that. She's told me many times, once you've experienced freedom, you wouldn't want to go back to corporate.
Okay,
It's a
I
simple thing like that. So
yeah, I agree on that one. I've been work from home was my reality for many years, even before COVID happened. And I used to have a working partner with me. We still work together, but on and off. And at that point of time, he used to say, "Let's go find a job, and we shall have all the perks because we'll be seniors and we'll have sponsored cabs and uh, whichever city we feel like we go and shoot and hotel rooms and all kinds of pluses." So at that point of time, my answer was the same. I said, now that I've tasted freedom, none of this seems attractive to me because I genuinely believe that if I feel like just crossing the road and having a cup of tea uh, at my own time, it's something that my job will not allow me to do very often. And it may seem like making a big fuss out of small things, but it is not. So I completely agree on that one. Was your wife working there?
Yes, she was working there as well.
And has she also quit her job once you guys came back?
Yes. We worked for an NGO for a couple of months. She worked close to a year and then she quit that as well. So, yeah.
Okay. One of the things that comes to mind is with this new kind of scenario you set up for yourself, with whatever experience I have of the same thing, not as big as yours, but comparatively it's far more gradual in my case, and not fully in there or out. I find it leads to much more meaningful relationships being created. You called them strangers. A lot of strangers became inspiring, or they guided you out of your questions at that point of time. But one of the things that I have learned is there are certain relationships you form, friendships and family relationships, which are far more deeper um, than what you had before. So, has that been your experience as well, between, like, with relatives as well as friends?
Yes, yes, in the sense that somehow the universe tries to get you to people who are making difficult choices of their own, and you tend to get along with them more. Somewhere there are certain values that matches. Somehow you get in touch with them. You don't actually consciously seek them out, but they keep getting into your life, and you keep getting into their life. Uh, that has happened a lot. That gives you a lot of faith that there is another way of living, which gives you meaning. At the same time, it can sustain you in this world as well. You don't have to, max out on all parameters of life to live a happy life. You can still live it. Yeah, I think it's a question of discovery. It takes time to get there. I think people are getting
Yeah, I think what I want to clarify on that question a bit. So one of the things that has happened to me, there are a lot of detractors about making a choice like this. Over a period, I have found that life being life, what you think when you are, say, 35, you don't think the same at 40 or 45 or 50. So your perspective change leads to a wisdom of sorts. I don't want to qualify what kind of wisdom that means, but I found many a time I landed up the same guys or same people who felt that these decisions are ad hoc and far too moody and impractical, have in their weak moments or in their tough times sought me out to speak, because they thought that I would understand their perspective far more easily than their so-called other relatives and friends would. Initially, I was surprised by this, but over a period, I understood uh, that because we've chosen the harder path, they think when there's a hardship, we would kind of understand this better. Has that also been an experience that you and your wife have faced at times?
actually many times
Oh,
because yeah, I constantly keep getting calls from people who are dealing with personal crisis, death, psychological issues, unemployment. And I think one of the reasons they probably call is they can get a different perspective on it, not the
yeah.
perspective that you're a failure or the world is doomed now. There's nothing much you can do. But yeah, so I think, and they realize that after a point in time that they have whatever they have, they have not yet appreciated or have had gratitude for it. And instead of being completely involved in the situation that is unfolding, they can probably just take a step back and just witness it, that this is what is happening. And I am in this for whatever reason, and what can I do best that helps alleviate the situation if I can. If not, can I accept it with humility and not grieve or become extremely disturbed over it? So yes, for that I do keep getting calls. People still keep in touch, and I think
Uh,
eventually you have to figure out their own way out of the rat race.
do you do you feel vindicated then? Is there a sense of quite arrogance? Okay, look, I knew this better than them, or is there a sense of compassion? Like, yeah, this is the human lot of at least the modern man, if not forever. This has been the story of human life. Uh, or is there any other perspective that comes? What happens when they call you? And obviously, I'm presuming that you help them out as best as you can. Uh,
Actually, when they call me, they are generally in deep trouble. So at that point in
they are
time, though, they're in
sorry.
deep trouble. They're in deep
Okay.
trouble. So you can just listen to them because calls are generally very emotional. Vindication, anger, or arrogance, none of that is even possible at that point in time. You just want them to feel listened to, cared for, right? And hopefully they can even for a few moments in that talk just step out of that condition that they're drowning in, just come up a bit and then get a perspective. Mm, Vindication, even in general, I don't know if I think the only vindication that's possible is those people who felt otherwise. Over a period of time, they look at life, their own life, and feel that yes, there are these things that never give you happiness or satisfaction. It is just they give you momentary happiness, and it just passes away. They eventually develop a spiritual practice, then you feel happy for them. Beyond that, I don't know. Life is too short to, to have your choice vindicated. By then, life might be over. So,
Yeah. No. This was simply a question that I wanted the audience to hear the answer to. So maybe the answer is compassion in that sense, like you did say. If they wake up to smell the coffee uh, and try and do something about it, tell me something. There's one interesting thought I have felt when this part starts to come true, when people start to change. There is a serious set of troubles that you have to go through before you start seeing the light, so to speak, because it's a drastic change. You've been living your life one day till that day in a certain fashion. So you have a certain set of friends, a certain circle, a certain amount of money, respect, all the things that go with whatever reasonable standing you have in the society. So that starts to go away. That's some kind of law of nature that people start gravitating away from you uh, to other things which are more important. Uh, how how do they most probably deal with this part? Have your friends come back to you and said, no, no, this is too difficult. Can there be an easier answer? Or what you're talking is nonsense. It's impractical. I have to have a job. Without this job, I can't pay my EMI or whatever. Practical things, true things. Nevertheless, what is, have you had an experience like that? And what has been your reaction to that?
no, people do come up with these things that we have practical needs and goals. And I've always said that, yes, they are there, but how many of them, or what magnitude of that is really required? So if I can do something with 10 lakhs, do I need to spend 40 lakhs on it? If I want 40 lakhs, do I have to spend 2 crores on it? Because each one of those decisions has a further repercussion on the choices you make in life. So things like that. So and sometimes those choices are difficult. Maybe you wanted that 40 lakh car and now I want to settle for something lower, and maybe you feel less happier. But then there's a positive side to it as well. You don't have to stress so much on the EMI front. So similar to working, can I stop working at 60? Do I have to work till 70? Do I need that second house or the third house, or do I have to send my children abroad for their undergraduate studies? There's so many of these choices where it comes down to what is it that you're willing to pay for. I always say try to simplify your life so that it's easier on everything. Yeah, I think that's where most people have a difficulty that if after, for the first time in their life or after their parents' generation, they have an opportunity to really go big, earn a lot, spend a lot, accumulate a lot, and this guy is coming and saying, no, slow it down a bit. I think that's a difficulty there.
Uh, how do these guys look at you after, like, okay, I'll share uh, an example of sorts. I have found that after listening to something as simple as this, initially they are bewildered that the solution can be this simple. So most times it looks almost on the borderline of that this guy is foolish, he doesn't know what he's speaking. Most of the time goes in convincing, no, this is a solution and you got to try it for a while till you know, because far too simple. Very often I have kind of, suggested whatever prayer you're doing, just give it more time and sit in one place and do whatever you're doing, whatever your belief system is, it's all right. But let go of your expectation about what the prayer is supposed to achieve. Just tune in and settle down for a bit. Allow that space to come up with answers. So I've had questions. So is that all it takes? And once in a while, my answers are when you were in your fourth or fifth standard and your parents asked you to bow down in front of a certain god, you did so. You'd never ask the question whether it was worth it or not, or would it change things. You just did it. So there was not much intellectualizing of the whole thing. You just relax and get into that space and be wary of wanting or not wanting something. Just accept things for a while. So my understanding is that very often people scoff at it or they think it's far too simple, and they come back within 2 days and say nothing is happening, I'm already doing this. And very often they are, like you said, they are already in deep trouble, so they need an answer and fast. And well, life has its own plans whatever you or I think or they think about it. So do you find that sometimes they are angrier, they don't have that kind of time, and sometimes things are quite bad? It might involve health issues, mental health issues, and it requires a great deal of work before any kind of progress is going to be seen. In that scenario, has that happened? And if it has, how have you tackled those kind of problems?
Has happened a couple of times. Mental health is a very difficult thing to solve because society and doctors have already put this into the person's head that they have a problem. And there's a name for this. And once you have a name for this disease or whatever it is, you telling them to do certain other things that does not involve medication or that does not involve regular counseling, they disbelieve. And they need to get out of their current environment to go and try something else, even if it is regular exercise or playing some sport or going for trekking, some other activity other than what they've been doing all these years that has gotten them into this crisis. And many times they are not willing to listen. So one can only be compassionate and give them good advice and help. But beyond that, mental health in India is a very difficult thing to handle. And regarding the other issues, yes, the other personal crises like death or marital problems or financial issues, at that point in time when you tell them to take certain actions, their mind is so engrossed in the problem that they can't come out of it and think. And we are in a situation where we can't actually give them a solution. You can't bring back a dead person. You can't, get back a house that has been possessed by the bank. Or, those things have happened. Now going forward, what they can do to alleviate their suffering. For that, they need to take a certain leap forward, and they need to have faith in the person giving the advice. And since they talk to people like me once in a while, right? Once in 3 years, once in 5 years. So where are you going to get that trust or that faith? Because all these years you thought there's no point in talking to this person. And now you're in a crisis and the person gives you some advice. They don't want to take the advice as well. But I keep going back to them because I know that in the current social scenario we have, nobody wants to touch a person who is in difficulty or grief. So I try to get back to them once every few weeks, just checking on them, giving some time for them to speak about what they're facing, and hopefully they'll turn around. So
Yeah. This has been a fairly serious talk so far. But I generally land up asking one last question, which is not related to what we've been discussing so far, but which is more about a value system kind of thing. So if, let me just think up a question quickly. One of the examples that I read when I was doing some research for the values workshop is when you are, say, your best friend is caught doing something which is going to harm him in the long run by you. Okay. And but he is in a precarious position as of right now in terms of if you pull him out right now, say for example, he's a habitual poker kind of player or something like that, and he's lost a lot of money, and he comes to you to ask for money, and you kind of land up knowing about it. Now, if he doesn't pay up, it's going to harm him in terms of either legal or illegal issues of certain kind. And you've been very close to him. He's helped you out on numerous occasions earlier in your life when he had the money and maybe you didn't. Hypothetically, would you help him, and how would you help him?
So if it was, so I've had a situation like this with a different person. Not that he helped me with money or any sort, but this person was addicted to Bitcoin trading and lost a bunch of money and came to me for some money. And I could have given it, but I knew he would be trading it again and losing it again. So I actually didn't help him. But what I did help him was that he wanted to borrow from someone to pay off the debt. I said, you can borrow it, provided you don't get back to trading again, because this thing isn't working for you. You borrow it, then you work some other way and you pay that money back. I'm not saying you shouldn't borrow, but if you borrow it and what generally happens, they'll pay 50% off. They'll use other person 50% to go and again do this thing so that they can get back, and then they have this delusion that everything will just that one lucky thing and they'll hit jackpot, right? I would advise them against that. I said, you can take it, but don't touch this again. On that condition, I would advise you to take a loan and pay off the debt.
So,
I think he did
how did that work out?
I think he did listen. He whatever money somebody lent him, he just paid off the loan. He said, unless somebody lends me money explicitly telling I can trade with it, I won't trade any money. And I said, yeah, that's a fair question, because the person then giving you is aware that this could go. That is a fair proposition to take. I think values are the difficult choice is when there's a certain value at stake and you have to take a strong action against your own friend, because that's what you believe in and that's what is good for him and for the organization of the system. In those cases, I generally don't hesitate at all. I just go ahead and take the action. I know the person may be angry, we may not talk forever, but when I'm clear that it's going to harm the person and the organization and me and society, I go ahead. There are no, like, what is that movie? We had Amitabh Bachchan and Dilip Kumar, right? The,
Shakti.
that is Shakti, yes, I am more like that. I believe in that sort of a value system where, yeah, there is compassion and forgiveness, but where you have to take a strong decision. You take. Otherwise, you cannot keep values in the society anymore. Today, we are struggling with the breakdown in values all around. It's because at some point in time, these people were allowed to go scot-free.
Yeah.
And every criminal, every big criminal started off as a small criminal.
Thank you so much for this brief chat and the clarity of thought. I am happy that we had this conversation. And may all those who are listening in take forward some values and some ways of negotiating life on their terms where they're able to slow down and actually question their own choices, if nothing else. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me and have a great day. I hope all your listeners have a nice